Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the advent of Cyber 2022. This is day 4. Now, I'm uploading these the same day because, again, I was gone for the weekend, so I missed days 3 and 4. And then today is 5, I believe. So, yeah, 5 will go out today as well, hopefully. And then from there, we can just keep progressing. So, what do we got here? So during the investigation, we went ahead, did the OSINT challenge, and now we've got the QA Santa gift shop. So that is probably used by all the L's with admin privileges to add or delete gifts. Okay, fair enough. So what are we going to do? Now we need to scan the site. So if we open terminal here, so I've already got it running. So what is scanning? Scanning is a set of procedures for identifying live host ports, services, blah, 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 blah. What does that mean? It means you're sending a connection request, basically, to a machine or a server or whatever, and you're trying to judge the responses and see what is able to be taken advantage of. So what is open, what ports are open, what ports are filtered, what ports, different things like that. Now, here is the two types. There's passive scanning. This method involves scanning a network without directly interacting with the target. So passive scanning is usually carried out through packet capture and analysis tools. So what does that mean? It means that you're not actually touching the system. You're not sending a packet to the system to try and make that connection. You're listening. You're just waiting for them to send packets, and you're capturing them, and you're seeing, based on the packet captures, how they're communicating with each other. That's passive scanning, meaning that you're not actually touching the system, because as soon as you start touching systems, you start getting in the legal territory. You start getting yourself into trouble. Now, active scanning is a method where you scan individual endpoints in an IT network to retrieve more detailed information. So, exactly. So, the active scan usually involves sending packets or queries, which is what we just talked about. So, scanning techniques. Now, there's network scanning. A network is usually a collection of interconnected hosts, which you guys should know what a network is. Once the network is mapped, so this is, you might send out discovery scans, is what they're called, where you're scanning things to see what hosts are online, what IPs are available, that type of thing. And then from there, you go through and you start taking those individual hosts and scanning them more deeply. So you can see here's some of the responses you're going to get on port scans. So port scanning is scanning ports on an individual machine. So in computer networking, a port is a number assigned to uniquely identify a connection endpoint and to direct data to a specific service. So one thing that people get very confused on is ports. They don't understand what that means, what it is. A port is just a standard that we all came up with, that we said, and I say we, I mean the IT community as a whole. Basically, when I connect to you in SSH, it's going to be on port 22. Now, you can change that. You can put it on whatever port you want. But the problem is if we standardized it on port 22. So if I come from another company and I get hired on, I don't know how to connect to your SSH, but if it's on port 22, I know I can connect to it. Why? Because that's the standard we set. So that's all it is it's a standard. They can variate, they can change, you can put it on whatever port you want, but keep in mind, when another company or another partner or anyone is trying to make that connection using that service, if the standard has deviated, they don't know. They won't be able to connect. So that's why we use that standard. And you can see here, you go from 0 to 65,000 ports, so there's a lot of ports. And here's what some of the results you're going to get. You're going to get closed ports. That means it's not listening or it's turned off. Open ports, the host actively is accepting the connection. And then filtered ports. That means that the port is open, but the host isn't accepting connections, or the connections have to meet a certain criteria, like a source IP or things like that. So now vulnerability scanning, this is a little different. This is scanning for vulnerabilities on a machine. Sounds pretty self-explanatory. Nessus and them are big tools that are used, excuse me, widely. And so that those are big vulnerability scanners. Most people are familiar with them or understand them. So now scanning tools, network mapper, Nmap. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Nessus and Acunetics, whatever, however you say it, basically, don't worry about it. We're not doing the vulnerability scans yet. We're just doing Nmap scans right now. So focus on the biggest thing with IT and hacking in general when you're learning it. Take it in bits. Take it in little bits, because if you just try and consume all the knowledge at once, you're gonna miss stuff. You can't. Nobody can do that. So here we started the machine. So they want us to use a stealth scan, as they call it, or SYN scan. So now Nmap tech S, and it's 10.10. I think that is the right IP, actually. 115.249. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you guys is they say this SYN scan is, here's the problem. They say it is stealthy, and they say it right here. Hosts without completing the TCP three-way handshake and making the scan a little stealthier. It's not stealthy. You're going to get caught. Every single firewall in the world is, and intrusion detection system and everything is familiar with a stealth scan. They know what you're doing. It's not stealthy. Keep that in mind. So now here, detecting services. Get a list. So you can see the ping scan. This just tells you if the host is up. Operating system scan will tell you what operating system it's using. And then you have the detecting services. Get a list of running services in a live host. So the reason I want to do the services one is because I know one of the questions is going to ask us about it. So we went ahead and did the service version. That's what SV stands for, service version. And then you have Nikto. Nikto is another open source software, allows scanning for websites for vulnerabilities. So very similar to Nmap. The difference is Nmap. So there you go. We got the service version. This is what one of the answers. That's why I did it early. So Nikto, you can access the attack box by typing Nikto host, boom, boom, boom. So what does that mean? It means if I go to the attack box, type in Nikto, these are the results I'm going to get. And you can see it's going to give us the exact version number of, which is what we got here, but it's just a different way of doing it. And the reason that you want different tools to do things is because sometimes one tool might not work or might give you weird results or something, and the other tool has the right answer. So you need to sometimes use different tools, understand different tools, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to live and die by one tool, and you might tell a company, hey, you don't have, if let's say you're doing a pen test and you say, hey, you're good, no vulnerabilities, I scanned it, and you never scan it with another one, and a hacker uses the other tool, scans it, finds it, now you're liable because you told that company they didn't have any vulnerabilities. All right, so here we go. So let's connect to Samba. So here, Elf Recon McRed, if you remember in the previous video, Elf Recon McRed used OSINT, found this QA server, and found that the credentials were public, so they think that might be how they got in. So what we need to do is go to the QA server. Let's connect to the Samba service. So you can see here, if we go up, we'll go ahead and just open it up. So you can see this is my attack box. So we'll go ahead and connect to it. So what happened is they're saying that there's a Samba service out there, and that's SMB, and that it's open to the public because the QA server credentials are sitting out there. So what we're going to do, boom, 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 1010, 115, 249. I put 349, that wouldn't work. And we hit enter, and you're going to see here, if it loads, you'll see it. Oh, I put wrong IP, 1010, 225, not 115. There we go. So now you can see we have a Samba share, which is public because you can see it doesn't have anything. Then you have admins and print. So if I go to the admins, well, I already had logged in earlier, so it just saved it. You can see it's going to pop up here, and you have to click registered user, and then you have to type in the name and password. Well, if you remember from the previous challenge, we found this username and this password, Ubuntu and Santa 2022. That's what we found. So now we have all the information we need to answer the questions. Let's start looking at them. So what is the name of the HTTP server running on the remote host? That's Apache. And we know that because we look at the scans, and there it is, Apache. That's the name of the service. What's the name of the service running on port 22 on the QA server? And that's port 22, and the name of the service is SSH. Now, I will tell you, you could 90% likely answer these two questions without ever doing a scan yourself, just by guessing if you understand basic scans. So now, what flag can you find after successfully accessing the Samba service? And that is this flag. So if you guys don't understand what's happening, SMB is a file share, or is a service where they're sharing, and they have an admin share folder where only admins are supposed to connect to this and get this information. The problem is because they left their admin credentials in the publicly available QA server config file that we found in the previous video, we can now log into their Samba share, grab the flag, which if we open it, it is THM Santa SMB server, right? And SMB is notoriously vulnerable over the years, so just kind of be aware of that. look for version numbers and things like that. So there's the flag. And then here's the better part. In their admin share, they also have credentials. So you can see was the password for the username Santa HR, and Santa HR is Santa25. There's your password. Now, why is it important to see or to walk through these steps slowly? It's because you're seeing a whole picture. What they're doing is they're giving you they're breaking it down. Okay, so we did this, then we did OSINT. So first we found out what was going on. Now we did OSINT. Now we're doing scanning. Then we're going to go in. They're following the attack kill chain and they're figuring it out. But the nice thing is they're doing it in chunks that are available to be received, right? They're following the chunks properly so that you understand the different steps. And at the end, you won't even realize it, but you probably, and I don't know this because we're not at day 25 yet or whatever, you will have done probably a full pen test and not even know it. So that's what's really cool about this challenge. So hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully this helps you guys. And if it did, please hit the subscribe button, guys. We are at 2K subs. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for participating, helping me get to 2K subs before the end of the year. You guys killed it. Thank you guys, and hopefully you guys have a great day.